say hi, even if you have to do it afterwards, I am fine. I would love to hear from you and to know that you are watching this and what your thoughts are. So I'm hoping some of the women that I've said that they'll be here will be joining us. Otherwise, I will just share what I have for this masterclass. And if you watch it, when you watch it, just add your comments or add your questions, and I will get back to you afterwards in a very quick way. So I'm very excited to bring you this introduction to advanced intuition, my 2-day course or my 8-week course, because it is a snapshot, a really condensed snapshot of what turning your intuition, your innate skill, into a intuitive intelligence, or as I call it, your advanced intuition. So why do I love this so much? Now, coming from where I was before, completely in my body mind, that is when your body is creating your reality. So your mind is connected to everything in your past and predicting all your future by the things that have been going on in your life. So creating patterns. So repeating those patterns, and then you kind of get into this loop of your life, and that's how the cycle for me for depression kind of kept coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. And the same with anxiety, coming and going, coming and going. Something will happen and you'll be back into it. And then as soon as I started to elevate myself out of that body-mind addiction and went into a heart-brain connection and relying on my intuition as a living, breathing part of me, growing that into an intelligence, I was able to completely say goodbye to that pattern of depression and anxiety. So, and the same with the information that I'm going to share with you today is nothing that has been withheld from you in a way. I want us to start the conversation around your own innate skills, because we are all intuitive. We are all intuitive. We all have intuition. It's not the select few like the psychics and the mediums and the clairvoyants. This is something that every one of us have. It is a biological part of us. And this conversation, this webinar is just to, or masterclass, sorry, is just to get you interested in your own divine nature and these skills that you own. And if you have any problems like I had in my previous life, I will call it my previous life, where depression and anxiety were running the game for me, then it's a bloody good idea to listen to this and guide yourself to your own divine nature and possibly advance your intuition so that you may change from a body-mind addiction to a heart-centered lifestyle that way. So I see my beautiful friend and soul sister Brooke is here. Hi Brooke. Thank you so much for showing up. It's really good to have your support. But if you have any questions, I doubt you would have. But if you see me make a mistake, just maybe call me later. I will not make a mistake. I know this because I live it and I breathe it, and this is what my job is here on earth to do. So yeah, if you can just let me know if the sound is good, that would be awesome, because I had some troubles this morning with my sound and internet connection. So it would be lovely to know if everything's cool. All right, I'm getting some hearts. Thank you. And let's start. So what is intuition? Intuition is biological, innate, sixth sense. Lucky I'm not New Zealander, otherwise that would sound like sex. Don't worry about it. Local, and is unconscious. So it's kind of a thing that we want to chase up when we, should we buy the new car? Should we have this do this new job, is this guy right for me, that kind of questions. You kind of have to run after your intuition when you want to answer, or you go see someone who has said to you that they are very intuitive, like a psychic or a medium or a clairvoyant. So that is our intuition. Is a part of us. What creates intuition is our hearts and our brains, which create an electromagnetic field. And our heart is actually the biggest one of the two, with the amount of electromagnetic action that it's producing. Is the combination of the 40,000 cells there and the beating of the heart creates electromagnetic fields. So we are actually more than our physical bodies that you can see. We are actually these energy fields that are created by our hearts and our brains, which is also electrical. So it creates an electric field. Everyone has this electric field. So if you've got a heartbeat, you've got an electric field, and in that field is information. It's wavelengths and things like that. This masterclass is way too short for me to go into that. But you know from Science 101 at school that energy is vibration. And therefore, we can all hear, listen, see, feel, receive, basically, each other's energy. So moving into your energy means that I can translate that into what feels like your energy at that stage. We perceive everyone else's biological electromagnetic field, and we can do that from things in the environment as well. So the outstretch of this field has been measured to 2.5 meters across our body. And that's the length that they can measure it up to for the equipment. So, which means we can actually perceive more, and it's known that we can perceive more from further afield than 2.5 meters. But I don't want us to rely solely on that. That is our intuition, our innate intuition. It is our sense. It is what does keep us safe, all that information that we've heard about intuition. But intuition is so much more when you devote yourself to advancing it. It is like learning French. Everyone knows people can speak French. You think you can speak French, so you go and have a French class. And the first moment you just realize, oh shit, I can't speak French, is when the French teacher, the tutor will tell you, but solo mio, no, that's Spanish. Oh, my dearest, you only have to start practicing. And let's start with lesson 1 and lesson 2 and lesson 3. And that way you start to improve your French. Now, turning your intuition into a lifestyle form, into a breathing system is the same way. You need to devote your energy, your time, and your focus and attention on it, so that you can develop it into a system that you don't have to rely on just the living by the energy that you can feel. So the energy that we can feel or receive is called electrosensitivity, and that is usually empaths, people who qualify themselves as empaths, and people who call themselves highly sensitive. Else's energy. They take on everyone else's energy. Now, we all can do this. This is a choice. They have felt, let me explain it in a way that makes sense, because I too could receive external energies, and for the longest time I avoided increasing my intuition because I thought I would have to become a medium, and it scared the shit out of me. So I avoided increasing my intuition. And I love the fact that I could say that I was an empath, and therefore other people's energy, just affect me wrong, and I avoid people and all that stuff. But when you take that real high sensitivity to electromagnetic signals, which we all have, but we can all do it, and you turn it into a skill where not only can you perceive the environmental things around you, so consciously perceive the environmental things, you can actually tap into the bigger field that is around us in different realms, different energy fields and all that stuff. So I want us to move into the non-local side of our intuition, and that is when we take our intuition, our innate birth, born with it, sixth sense, that thing, and we turn it into a non-local, so we can perceive things that are not in contact with us at this time and space. So it's a spiritual power. It is part of your spirit. This is a skill of your spirit, and it relies on your human side to delve and deepen into this power. So turning our innate intuition into a living, breathing system. The Heart Math Institute calls this non-local intuition the knowledge or sense of something that cannot be explained by forgotten knowledge or by sensing the environmental signals. So we're not using our electromagnetic sensitivity to ask for guidance. We use into a non-local field, something that we can't see but does exist. Science has explained it. It is there. It's called the consciousness. It's called God. You can call it what you want. The universe. That is what we can tap into, and we have a direct link with it. The bridge between us and the non-local. So the non-local intuition, this spiritual that we all have, is accessible anytime. It is reliable, and it's completely 100% designed to guide you in the moment that you are in. So okay, what do I want to say here? All right, so why did I write that? Anyway, beyond needing anything or anyone to fix you. All right, when you step into your spiritual superpower of non-local intuitions, or your intuitive intelligence, your advanced intuition, as I call it, means that you are letting go of all the old ways of doing things, of relying on someone else to heal you, someone else to guide you, anything, a card, a crystal, something outside you to have the answers of your life, have the guidance for your life. Now, this is what loosens the shackles of the world if you step into this power of connecting into your non-local intuition. Now, intuitive intelligence is a sign of a healed mind, which means it is the removing the belief or letting go of the belief that we are separate. In fact, that we are connected all to the one mind, to God, and interconnected to this field of consciousness. And therefore, you can tap into the information. Now, I see it in my mind's eye like networks of lines between me and every other person in the world, but also including all the people that have been and all the people that are coming. And God, it's a whole system of networks. It's a little bit like thinking of the Matrix and that field that everyone was growing in and being sustained. It's a little bit like that, but it's not as gruesome as the Matrix portrayed it. But it's kind of that we are connected, each and every one of us. On a local level, we are connected through our electromagnetic fields. On a non-local level, we are connected through our intuitive intelligence, and we are connected to everything at that stage. So there are 3 different forms of intuition, or phases, that we go through with our intuition. They are called primary, which is completely 100% ingrown in where you are now, perceiving everything electromagnetically, being unconscious of it. You can start to realize that you can tap into your intuition, and that makes you curious to move on to the next phase, which is communion. That is where you start to realize, oh, okay, I can actually do stuff, and I am part of something that feels more right with me. I'm not alone in this. And you start to feel, you also start to realize there's effects of your energy. This is where people usually start to do the law of attraction, and they get really the stuff that they want. Law of attraction comes in, and then suddenly the law of attraction stops working. That's another conversation. But it's in this phase that we kind of say, you know what, I will follow my intuition, but God needs to do this and God needs to do that. And you set your own parameters, and you are playing God over God. That's a very crass way of telling it, but that's what we do as humans. We are taught we are bigger than, we are greater than everything else on earth. And therefore, we have the right to tell God what we want. We want the car, we deserve the car, we deserve the house, and we deserve that perfect marriage. And this is also where you start to realize that the laws of attraction don't work anymore, things start falling apart, and so forth, and become more curious as to how you can actually tap into that true nature of yourself. And then you move into the surrender phase of intuition, and that is where you can drop in and out of time and space. Basically, you disconnect from the physical world while you're still here. So we're not astroplaning. I'm not astroplaning. I don't know what it is. I've never done that, or I don't think I've done that with anyone. But I've heard some people talk about it. I've not done that. But this is not the same. This is where you've become part of that network, and time and space kind of drifts away. And this can happen quite instantly, and that's how our intuition also works. We drop into that space of complete knowing and complete and utter divine nature. And it is beautiful that we can drop in and out. Our human side wants to be there always, because everything makes sense there. All of our suffering is gone, and therefore we feel that this is where our soul wants to be. But our lives still require us to be here in human form, and therefore we have to be part of, humanness and awaken while we are human. And this is what we are all in the process of awakening. We are moving through the surrender intuition, where we're trusting our intuition. We ask no questions, so we don't have that shopping list of things that we want from God, because it's already answered. And we understand that our lives are of service to the awakening of all sentient beings. So how do I receive intuition? This is a really good question. For me, it was, for years I knew kind of what mine was, until I started to do this hard lessons on intuition, and I received another clair. But we start off, most of us, with one specific dominant clair. The intuition skills, how you receive, is called clairs. And it's not the select few that have it, not the clairvoyants who only have it. Everyone has this skill, and there are 4 types. It is clairaudient, which means you clear hearing, clairvoyancy, clear sight, claircognizance, clear knowing, and clairsentient, which is clear feeling. Now, I'm going to go into quick explanation of each of these so that you can understand how they are not the same as our physical senses, feeling and knowing. They are similar. They're called our non-local version of our senses, but it is all perceived inside of our body. So the clear hearing one, it's not like someone is whispering to you. It is more of the sense of you understand it as a sound. You either, for me at this stage, I have combined my 4, and that happens with practice. You kind of combine it, not specific practice, it just happens with your innate intuition turning into intuitive intelligence. You kind of combine them sometime. And so how I perceive my clairaudience is a word will pop up. I see it clairvoyantly, the word, but at the same time I see it, the sight of it, I hear it spoken, and it's like, do you hear it in Afrikaans, or do you hear it in English, do you hear it in German, what language do you hear it in? Well, it is the language that your soul, you integrally hear. So I hear English, therefore my intuition is English, which is good because I do not speak French. All right. Thank you all for sticking by me with this masterclass. Let me know how you're going. Any of this interesting you? What do you want to know more about? Let me know in the comments, and I will get back to what I'm teaching. All right. So how do I know if I'm receiving my intuition? It's not that thing that we are chasing around to try and find, but if you do go chasing after it and seeing, how do you know that you're receiving it? Firstly, are you in a easeful, open state? So are you calm and peaceful and surrendered? So not running around chasing stuff and in your body mind, which is usually fear driven, cortisol levels high, the opportunity for your intuition to drop in then is very, very, very limited, because your body is taken over and it's only listening to itself by these fear symptoms. So how do I know if it's my intuition? Are you in a good state to receive it? You need to be in the state to receive it. You need to be in an open, easeful state to receive it. Is it coming with a feeling of certainty and love rather than fear and a manicness about it? So there's a big question in the spiritual world. Is it my ego or is it my intuition talking to me? Now, if it is coming up with fear-driven things, or I fear my kids will die, or I'm seeing my husband die, I'm seeing, everyone's dying, I'm going to die, my parents are going to die, that's our ego. That is our ego. If it was your intuition telling you that it is your kids are going to die, there would be a peace to it, a certainty and a grace to it. I know it is hard to imagine that your intuition would tell you such a horrible thing, that your kids would die, but if it's your intuition, you kind of know that it is the truth and that this is the way that it will happen, and this is what is, and you are fine with it. You might fight it because there's a big part of our spiritual fierceness that we'll get to now that relies on us trusting that intuition, and that may be hard sometimes. because our ego puts up such a massive fight, and we want to fight God on all these things. No, my fucking kid. No, my kids won't die. No, I won't die. No, my husband won't die. We want to fight these things, and that is our ego putting up a fight and putting a block between us and the infinite, which we are always connected to, except when we put up the blocks between us and the infinite, and our ego is that block. So, moving on to spiritual fierceness, this is where we come into the practices that we do, the deep devotion and consistent practice. We have to practice this consistently for it to work. And this makes sense. That previous sentence that I just said, it makes perfect sense. If you are not removing the blocks between you and the infinite, that is fear, that is beliefs, that is values, that is emotions, if you are not looking after them, if you're not going to use them as a way to signify to your consciousness, to yourself, that you are blocking your way between the infinite, between God, then if you're not going to do the work, you're not going to receive the intuition. You're not going to be in an intuitive, intelligent state where you are living and breathing your intuition, where everything falls in without question, without going to hunt for it, going to do a Ouija board. Who's ever done that Ouija board stuff? You know, these are all things that can happen for us when we do the work. And I am the best one to tell you that I hate work. I truly hate. I would do something maybe 5 times and then, or not even 5 times, 4 times. Yeah, 4 times. Meditate. Yeah, do that maybe 3 times. Yeah, and then I stop meditating. But for the reward of living in an intuitive, intelligent life, advanced intuition, you kind of see you have to do the one to get the other, to get the intuition, to live in that state where the information is effortless. We need to do practices, and they are not horrendous practices, they are quite good. In the advanced intuition course, there is about 8 with extended ones that you can do, so about 16 major ones. But if you're in a rush and if you're in a stressful state, there is like a couple, 1 or 3. I've got 3 that I would always do no matter what. And wherever I am, I don't need anything for it, I just need myself. So, and this is where spiritual fierceness is also cultivating that trust in us, to trust whatever is coming through. Because if we're not in trust of our intuition, we are in distrust, which means we are distrusting ourselves, which means we're distrusting God. Is distrusting a word? Yes, hopefully. Anyway, we're getting to the end. So I want us to just consider where we are now. I want to combine it all and squish it into this container of where we are in this masterclass today. So you are there, on your side, I'm here. With your innate intuition, which we were born with. It's our biological system, which works by assessing and receiving information from our electromagnetic field. What creates our electromagnetic field is our heart and our brain, the 2 combined. We sync these 2 up by heart congruence. If you've done heart congruence with me, or you've done the Peaceful You course with me, you would have gotten the information of why it is necessary for us to connect our heart's intuition with our brain's intuition, our cognitive intuition, intelligence with our heart's intelligence. If you sync them up like you do your phone to your computer and your phone to your car, so you can listen to music when you Bluetooth the 2, uh, you create a unified field around you that is um, elevated in emotion, and therefore you can remove the blocks easier that are between yourself and the infinite. So I love doing this outstretched arms thing. I wish I could stretch my arms all the way that my subtle anatomy, that is what we call it, shorthand, how the expanse of my subtle anatomy. But we can't, because it's larger than what my arms are. So you are there. And fear is blocking your ability to access the unified field. So that network, you are part of that network. Do you know part of that network? I don't know if you know it, but you are part of that network. Can you access the information from everyone else and from God in that network? No, not at this stage. If you're privileging your fear and fights and fear in your system, so if you're still blocking your access to it, when we're having this conversation, you need to be thinking about a horizontal plane and a vertical plane when I'm talking about energy this way and energy this way. So it's kind of brilliant that you can keep up with me, but that's how I see it. I've got an engineering brain, and therefore I need to see things on different planes, and that's how I see it. Clairvoyant and clairsentiently kind of have to do that. Oh, I forgot to explain what clairsentient means, but clairsentient is basically not the feeling of, it is, we all can feel energetic fields, therefore it's not clairsentient. It's like, oh, I feel a pain in my back, so you must have a backache. It is not that. It is a feeling in your body that urges you to speak the intuition. That is clairsentient. And a few women, I have found myself sometimes, when you're in a conversation with someone, or you either know them or you don't know them, you just have this urge to say these words. And when you do say them, they're like, wow, you just blew my mind with that. Wow, where did this come from? And you're like, I know my stuff. No, baby, no. That's your clairsentient nature. That is the infinite speaking through you. And that is the best way I can try and describe clairsentient. It is a feeling that you just can't hold your mouth. And for me, that is, it's a very intense feeling to do that. But my other skills are more predominant, so my clairvoyancy and my audience is very loud as well. Men are very known to have claircognizance. Men, that's their most dominant skill in men, is claircognizance, a clear knowing. So if your husband is kind of, I know, mine kind of does the we shouldn't do that. So his is more fear related, but he's still trusted. So husbands or your sons may be more claircognizance. They know it. And if you ask them how they know it, they don't know how they know it. They just know it. Yeah, have you heard that before? So that's where we are. And with this advanced intuition course, the 8-week course online or the 2-day course that I'm having in a couple of weeks in North Boyana, we will dive deeper into Intuition 101, so the kinds of intuition, the science of intuition, how we are intuitive beings, how we can be intuitive intelligent beings. All this is due to science, quantum physics. The science is all there. We will dive into the 3 immutable laws. This is laws that speak to our spiritual side. So when we adhere to them, we receive powerful gifts, not gifts, I should use, powerful results. Adhering to them, aligning our lives to these laws, gives our lives spiritual meaning. How do we assess the spiritual meaning? We advance our spiritual sight. So how we see the world becomes from symbolic. We move into symbolic meaning, and we advance our ability to perceive things impersonally. So this is what I wanted to share with the women that has come to me that said, I am empathic, I take on people's emotions, I fear so strongly for the people around me, it's draining my energy. I have vampires that, or energy vampires that are sucking my energy all the. Now, increasing your vibration and in the one way, when you heighten yourself up with your vibration, if you increase your own vibration, those people kind of drop off. But also increasing your spiritual side, meaning that you can see how things are happening in your life. You can perceive it impersonally. So you're not in and amongst the stresses of it. You're not in and amongst the pain of it. You're not in and amongst the sadness and the desperation that we sometimes feel we are in. It is elevating us to a level that we are watching our lives impersonally and can see the meaning of it, and allow us to spiritually see our lives, how it runs out. We'll also dive into protection, that you do not need protection. I just said energy vampires, you do not need protection. And we will go into the spiritual trinkets and superstitions that we've been taught and that we've grown up with, that actually is hindering your intuition and not increasing your intuitive intelligence, and not advancing it at all, is actually contributing to the fact that you are feeling alone and scared and so vulnerable to the world. So we'll go into that as well. And then we will learn the amazing, truly life-giving, life-changing, life-altering process of intuitive tapping, which is a stress-reducing, releasing of emotional attachments, restoring energy flow, and a clear and calm of nature. So we know that our biggest health concern in the Western world is stress. Stress is killing us. It's showing up as heart disease, breast cancer, every kind of cancer. It's showing up in relationships. It is showing up in our money, our relationship with money. It's showing up in our kids. It is showing up everywhere. And intuitive tapping is easier than EFT. It's similar to EFT, emotional freedom tapping procedure. The only thing the biggest thing about it is you don't have to learn a setup statement. You don't have to remember a setup statement, because your healing comes intuitively. The information that you need to heal yourself comes intuitively, and therefore you do not need to read it off a book, sitting there tapping, where am I now? That in its sense completely removes you from dropping into the fear and removing it from your subtle anatomy, from that field basically that connects you to the unified field. So yes, that is it. I would thank you to those who are still here. I will drop in the comments after I'm finished. I will drop in the links to the Advanced Intuition 2-day course in North Boyanup and the 8-week course that starts on the 29th of April online. So you can visit Zoom and you get all the classes, all the recordings. You get the Spiritually Fierce workbook. You get the Spiritually Fierce handbook. You get the Advanced Intuition workbook. You get a journal, a pen, a candle so that you can have your ritual devotion, and then you get some extra special. So even if you are overseas, I will post that out to you, and make you completely ready for this container of advancing your intuition from where it is now to a spiritual superpower that it can be. And that, yeah, I am happy to guide you through that. Alrighty then. Thank you so much for those who are here. I suspect it's Brooke. Thank you so much, lovely. Have an amazing Tuesday, and thank you so much for watching. Always love.